Life in Maplewood was simple, like a Sunday morning stretched on forever, where the biggest decision was whether to have eggs over easy or sunny side up. The sun rose and set over the cornfields, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. And in this corner of America, time seemed to slow down. I'm here to tell you about Maplewood. If you haven't heard of it, don't worry. It's not famous. It doesn't even show up on many maps. But if I can make you hear the crickets chirping on a summer night, if I can make you feel the heat rising off the Mac basketball court, if I can make you smell freshly cut grass and chlorine from the town pool, then you know that I'm talking about a place like Maplewood, where I grew up. Everyone knew everyone. Privacy was a foreign concept, and gossip traveled faster than a speeding pickup truck. When you entered the town, a friendly face waved from the porch, and when you left, another face waved from the other side of the road, almost like an escort. Growing up, there was safe. You didn't lock your doors at night. If you lost your dog, Mrs. Henderson down the street would be feeding him table scraps on her porch until you found him. Your broken heart wasn't your problem alone. It was the whole town's problem. And when I say Maplewood was a small town, I mean it. If you wanted to go dancing, you hit the high school gym. For a date, you drove 25 minutes to the nearest mall, which wasn't much of a mall, more like a big Kmart with a handful of stores. And if you wanted to see a movie, you had the Rex Theatre, complete with a flickering neon sign and a velvet curtain. Every Friday night in Maplewood was sacred. The Friday night ritual started before sunset. First, you had to grab a burger and fries at Big Bob's Barbecue. Next, you met your friends at the corner of Elm and 4th, where cars cruised slowly to check out the scene. Then you watched the football game together, cheering so loudly that the players could hear you. After the game, regardless of whether the team won or lost, you hit the Dairy Queen, savoring the taste of vanilla soft-serve ice cream, while discussing the game and comparing crushes. Finally, you walked under the stars, holding hands, making plans to do it all again next week. When I was 16 years old, life in Maplewood felt unbearably slow. I dreamt of escaping to a big city where people didn't say hi to strangers and where you could walk down the street without knowing your neighbor's business. Now that I've left, I realize how lucky I was. Because in Maplewood, you learn the value of human connection, of genuine smiles, of knowing your neighbor and being known. The town was surrounded by cornfields, and during harvest time, the air thrummed with activity. You could hear tractors rumbling at dawn, their engines competing with the crows. During the day, the horizon shimmered with golden light reflecting off rows and rows of corn. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky blazed with fiery colors. My brother and I loved exploring the abandoned train tracks that snaked along the edge of town. We dreamed of hopping aboard a runaway train and traveling to far-off lands. Of course, Mum would never let us ride the rails, but daydreaming kept us busy on hot summer days. There were 3 places in Maplewood where secrets went to die. At No. 3, the local newspaper, the Maplewood Gazette, published weekly on Thursdays, contained more news than just local happenings. It also carried snippets of gossip, announcements of bake sales and church socials, and even details of last week's poker game at Jed's Tavern. At No. 2, the barber shop wasn't just a place for haircuts. It was a hub of gossip. When you sat in Mr. Henderson's chair, he knew how to make conversation, and if you thought your haircut was going to take 15 minutes, think again. He had a way of stretching 5 minutes into an hour of chin stroking and story swapping. And at number 1, the old brick wall at the edge of town, especially after a high school football game, was the perfect place to meet. All you had to do was walk past the rusted stop sign, turn left onto Oak Street, and then you'd find the brick wall. There you could talk for hours, sharing secrets that wouldn't stay secret for long. Because in Maplewood, the wind carried voices and whispers floated through windows. Our house didn't have central air, so every evening in the summer, Dad would drag out the window unit. The rhythmic hum of the AC battling the oppressive humidity became the soundtrack of our nights. Once the temperature dropped a few notches, we'd pile onto the couch to watch TV, mesmerized by the flickering screen. Dad would doze in his chair, Mum would knit, and I'd devour whatever book I had in my hands. Even in the darkness, Maplewood felt safe. The town was wrapped in a network of dirt roads and lanes that connected farms and houses. Riding my bike down these lanes was like exploring uncharted territory. I'd weave between rows of corn, imagining I was racing through jungles or dodging obstacles in an exciting video game. One summer, our family took a road trip. When we got back to Maplewood, I remember thinking how strange it was that people didn't greet each other on the highway. I missed the friendly waves and the sense of community that came with them. We didn't have much money growing up, but we had something better, which was family. Saturday mornings, Dad would wake us up early. We'd pile into the car and drive to the nearest lake. Then we'd spend the day swimming, picnicking, and exploring. Sometimes we even saw deer drinking from the lake, and when the sun started to set, we'd head home with memories that lasted longer than the summer. If you ever find yourself driving through a town with a population of 2,000 and a giant oak tree in the middle of town, you might just be passing through Maplewood. And if you are, take a moment to breathe in the air, listen to the birds, and maybe strike up a conversation with someone who grew up there. You might just discover a piece of America that hasn't changed much since my time.